Hello everybody, Andy here. This is a huge, amazing, kind of surreal experience, but I have now reached 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. If for some reason you're watching this video and you're not a subscriber, subscribe below, please. This has blown my expectations of what I was going to do on YouTube and BookTube way out of the water. Thank you guys for caring what I have to say and my opinions and some of the stuff I want to talk about, Malazan and otherwise. Truly, thank you. So to celebrate this 1,000 subscribers and access to the community tab, I saw a couple of other BookTube friends that I had do a Q&A and ask for questions, and I thought that'd be fun to do myself. So put out the call last Saturday for questions, and we got a good amount of them. So I'm just going to try to push through this. Some I'll answer quickly, some I'll answer, I almost said longer. And yeah, we'll just see. I'll try not to make this video too long, but excited to talk about myself. That sentence was weird. All right, let's get started here. First question from one of my favorite people on YouTube. That'll probably be a theme here. Philip Chase asks, what have you studied in your formal education and what realms of knowledge do you pursue on your own? Also, please tell us more about the movie theater cafe and feel free to include pictures or a video tour. Oh, wow, exciting. Answer about formal education first. I graduated from a small Christian institute called Moody Bible Institute, where I got my BA in theology with a minor in historical theology. So I've always been very interested in history and theology. Obviously, theology is very closely linked with philosophy and a lot of other disciplines like exegesis and linguistics and semiotics and a lot of other things like that that I was more or less trained in depending on where I was. From there, the whole reason I got that degree is I was very interested in being a pastor or Presbyterian minister at that time. I have since decided that's definitely not what I wanted to do, and in fact, a lot of my religious beliefs and thoughts have changed completely since then. But at this time, I was still thinking that was going to be my path, so I went to get a Master's of Divinity degree from a really great seminary called Westminster Seminary, California, which is in San Diego County, northern San Diego County. That's actually where I met my wife. Yeah, so I actually switched programs someday through there from the Master of Divinity program, which does a lot of academic stuff, but also studies homiletics, or the study of preaching and how to communicate well. And it was in that study, I think, where I got really well at talking to large amounts of people and public speaking, but also I think that helps a lot in my YouTube communication and organizing some of the things, especially some of my longer videos like the postmodern video, come from knowing how to organize oral speech and discussion and discord and rhetoric and that sort of thing that we learned there in that program. But I switched midway to an MA in history, which is where I learned a lot of historiography and actual practice around idea of history and how we do history, as well as basic stuff about primary versus secondary sources and those kind of things. Longer term thesis papers, yada yada yada. I eventually went back and actually graduated with my Master's of Divinity, so that's actually my graduate degree. So that's my formal education. All kinds of, as in any area of study, secondary areas of studies, especially philosophy, really caught my eye. I also really love languages, even though I can't speak any, which I'm very sad about. I know a fair amount of Spanish, and I can read Koine Greek and ancient Hebrew fairly well. And I just like the study of that generally, but I'm not sure how good I would be anymore. That was a couple years ago where I was able to kind of sight read those languages. Maybe not best anymore. What career path did I take, you might ask? That's a good segue to the second half of Philip's question. I now own a small business, a coffee shop and movie theater. It's actually a micro cinema is what I call it, which is a movie theater, single screen, under 100 occupants. We primarily focus on American independent cinema or international features or global features. Grey Duck Theater and Coffee House in Rochester, Minnesota. If you're ever in Rochester, Minnesota, come by and say hello. Oh, and pictures. I'll include a couple pictures. There we go. This is from Phasered84, which I feel like I should know who this is. I think this is someone from the Shelf Space Discord, but I'm not 100% sure. They put in a whole bunch of questions. Let's just go through this really quick. What is you and your wife's origin story? I'll come back to that one. What is your takeout order? Definitely pad thai. Love Thai food, and specifically pad thai. Will always, always, always take that first if I can choose. Favorite color? I don't really know. Maybe blue. I like a lot of colors. Colors are great. Do you like any books outside of the fantasy genre? I like a lot of books outside of the fantasy genre. I kind of go through phases. Like during quarantine, if you look at my quarantine reads, I went through a huge history reading streak and nonfiction writing streak where I read a lot of contemporary politics as well as classic American history. I read 2 different shorter histories of the United States. So yeah, obviously I love reading philosophy and sometimes theology, although that's kind of cooled in more recent days. But I have a lot of different aspects that I read depending on sort of my feel. Fantasy is sort of a constant. I always like to have a good fiction, and I generally gravitate towards fantasy, but I do have other readings outside of that. I also really like, well, I shouldn't say really like, I'm trying to get into poetry a little more. That waxes and wanes. What would you like to have? Who would you like to have a cup of coffee, tea, alcohol, drink? Any author or character or famous person to chat with? A couple of people asked me that. I've looked over these questions briefly, although I haven't really prepared, so I'm going to get to that later. Let's go back to that first question about where my wife and I met. I mentioned in graduate school. Actually, the first time we met was when we were playing Ultimate Frisbee at the park. She saw me. We, kind of met. We didn't really know each other super well, but as much as you know people when you're playing a large team sport with them. My wife has since told me that her first impression was that I was super young, and it made her feel old at graduate school. She's a couple years older than me, and I look very young, especially back then. And so that was a great first impression I left. But actually where we really started to get to know each other well was at a Halloween party, actually. And we got talking, and by January of that year, we were dating. And then actually by September of the next year, we were married. We moved very quickly. I'm a very concise person in life in general. Not concise. What word am I looking for there? Decisive. There we go. I'm a very decisive person in my life in a lot of different ways. Katrina asks, is there a book character that everyone seems to unanimously love and you can't stand, or vice versa? That's an interesting question. Someone that everyone can't stand. Well, vice versa is pretty easy. I have made this known that I'm not a huge fan of Shallan's comedy in the Stormlight Archive, so I think that's pretty easy. But I don't know if that's you. I know other people are upset about that, so I'm not sure it's a universal love. Oh, yes. Well, I'll just say, people who read the First Law trilogy love the character Glotka. I don't hate him, and it's not someone I can't stand. I just find him kind of one note. Not a huge fan. And some people have said it's like the best character in fiction. So that's the closest I can get. Maybe something will jump out of my mind. I need to look at my bookshelf. Ooh, I know Alan hates Krupp in Malazan, but most people love him. Anyway, I love Krupp. Let's go on to Really Good and Kind asks, when do you plan on collaborating with TVBB, which is 10 Very Big Books? That's a Malazan podcast that I love and have referenced a lot in my videos. I would love to collaborate with them whenever they're ready. I don't really want to get in on their shtick, but I would love to talk with those guys. I think they're awesome. So would love to either be on the podcast or have them on the channel. He also asks, and would you consider doing something more pop like Alice Verus, or maybe something really serious like Dostoevsky? Yes, to both of those. I'm hoping to do a wide spectrum. I just did, 4 years ago, a Dostoevsky summer, where I read The Brothers Karamazov, Crime and Punishment, The Idiot, and Notes from Underground, which are kind of all of his main works. My favorite is Crime and Punishment. so I probably won't be going back to him. I wanted to read a lot more Leo Tolstoy, so that might be something coming down the road. Yeah, contemporary stuff I'm not super read on. Maybe if enough people want to, I can do that. Nerdy Narrative. Leslie asks, how much time do you spend on your hair? How many products do you use to make it so perfect? I didn't tell her to say that at all. Thank you, Leslie. You know what? I'm pretty passionate about this. Give me a minute. I gotta grab some props. All right, I'm back with props. As I said, I'm kind of passionate about this because our culture, for some dumb reason, tells men that it is unmanly to care about how you look. Right? The whole like cultural thing is like make fun of women because they take forever for your dates. You should take forever getting ready for your dates. And also, like, I don't know, we just never receive instruction. Like, I never had anyone sit down and tell me about all this. I had to learn all this. So, here we go. Male hair tutorial. First thing, hair dryers. Not just for women. Guarantee you, men out there, your wife, your girlfriend, your sister, your mom, one of your roommates, I don't know, whoever, has a hair dryer. Ask them if you can borrow it. If they don't let you, they're like $15 at your local Target. Go pick one up. They are not for women. They are for everyone, and this makes your hair so much better. Get one of these, and then get a round brush. Here we go. Sorry that there's still hair on it. Probably should have taken that out before doing it, but whatever. You put this on after you do a basic towel dry on your hair. Put it on hot, put it on high, and dry your hair with it while you are brushing your hair up there until your hair is basically dry. 2 to 3 minutes for most guys' hair. This is an easy thing to do. It will give you so much more volume, so much more lift in your hair. It will make it look so much better. You know how you always talk about like the hair never looks as good as when it does when you get it haircut at the barber or at your hairstylist? It's because they use this hair dryer. Use it. It's not feminine. It is very manly. Care about how you look. I'm passionate about this. Also, again, because this stuff is not talked about, do not wash your hair with shampoo every day. If you really want to, just use conditioner, but definitely at least every other day with shampoo. I actually try to hit 3 or 4 days with shampooing, but with conditioning consistently thereof. Also, your facial hair, especially guys with bigger beards, those need to be shampooed and washed too. Just because it's down here and not up here doesn't mean it doesn't need to be washed. In fact, it probably needs to be washed more. Also, your poor skin under there. Come on, guys, this is basic. Also, don't get any of that shitty like shampoo and body wash combined into one. All right? Again, sort of self-explanatory. This stuff needs different stuff than this. Okay? Come on. This is pretty basic. All right. Now you're saying, okay, I'm not going to wash my hair every day. And that's to give the natural oils some time to, build up, and that's good for your hair. I'd also recommend on those days when you want a little bit more shine and just to promote healthier hair, get some argan oil. You can get something like this on Amazon for like $5, I think. And it's just a very, very natural oil that gives a lot of shine to your hair, especially on days when you just wash your hair, because sometimes that can make your hair a little bit more frizzy. Putting a little bit on that will give it a little bit more shine, a little bit more oil than normal, and it'll make it look real, real good. Now, Leslie asked specifically about product. This is also something that no one teaches guys unless they go out and look for it. There's kind of your 3 basic products, and they're on various scales. Most of us who grew up in the time that I grew up, or at least lived through the early 2000s, the boy band era, think of product and we think of gel. Big, goopy stuff that has really, really strong hold, right? Kind of gets that crackly crunch so you can get that faux hawk that you've always wanted in front. Now, generally, gel is shit. Don't use gel. It looks crackly. And it was cool for a couple years in 2000, but, Lance Bass of 2001 is no longer here. All right? It's a better Lance Bass. Anyway, don't use gel. It's too strong. On the next to that, we have like hairspray, like good hairsprays. That's for, it's got less hold and normally it gives you a lot of sheen, like a lot of shine. And it's for kind of that messy look. So if you're really a fan of the messy look, just put it where you want it to go messy-wise, and then give a healthy dose of hairspray. I'm not really a huge fan of that. Obviously, I'm more of sort of like the straight swoop kind of thing. For that, highly recommend pomade. I think actually most guys probably want to use pomade. Sometimes it's called forming cream. And American Crew is the best if you can afford that. If not, like Marshall's, those kind of places usually have pretty good deals on pomades. That really gives you kind of the middle ground there. It's got a firm hold, but it also gives you a nice shine, and it doesn't give like the crackly look. It gives a very natural look. So there you go. There's my little hair tutorial for you guys out there. Also, moisturize. That's not your hair, obviously your skin. There you go. Okay, off my soapbox. Next question. Jesse at The Bookish Mom asks, and this is similar to something someone asked earlier, if you could spend a day with one fictional character, who would you spend it with? And why? That's a very difficult question. So after some thought, not a long period of thought, but my little time that I gave myself right there, I kept coming back to Saphira from Aragon. Now I know that she's not the most interesting character, but she's very, very kind, very fun, and she's a dragon. So like we could just like ride the winds and, you know, fly around and really get like the dragon experience. And all the other dragons I could think of, like in like the Realm of Elderlings, or like Game of Thrones, or definitely in Malazan, are a little scary and a little wild. Saphira is pretty like kind and right there. I think we could get along and have some fun. There's obviously a lot of very fun characters I'd want to spend some time with, but they're all kind of human, to be honest, for the most part. Maybe Treebeard, because he's not human. I don't know. Spending time with humans is fun, but like, if you're going for a fictional person, go for like a crazy fictional person, I would think. Lee asked, is there any author that you do not rate that other people do, and why? I have some unpopular author opinions, but I still rate them, so to speak. Like Sanderson, I'm not like a massive fan of, but I've read a ton of his books, and I really appreciate his storytelling. I think it's really interesting. Same with like a Joe Abercrombie. I've gone on record as being like not a huge fan of the First Law trilogy, but like I see him as a good writer, and I enjoy like reading him. I just am not like crazy about those books. All right, this is a good one. A lot of people like Mark Lawrence, especially in my circles, in the sort of like grimdark, I don't like that term, but like people like Malazan and First Law and Black Company, those sort of things, often gravitate toward Mark Lawrence. I have not been a huge fan. I don't like his storytelling. I don't like how he uses sexual violence in his stories. I don't really like his character. Like, I don't know. I have not read a Mark Lawrence book that I really liked. I read Prince of Thorns and whatever that is. Is that the Red Queen's War? Is that the name of that series? Just not a fan. So, sorry, Mark Lawrence fans. I don't think I've read Book of the Ancestor, which is like his most recent one, so maybe he's improved. But yeah, not really my thing. Rhythma asks, who's your favorite film director? This is a great question. Thank you so much for this. I'm a huge film nerd and buff. Obviously, I started a movie theater. So working directors, I think there are 3 that really rise to the top that I just love, love, love. Barry Jenkins did 2 of the best films of the decade, in my opinion, with Moonlight and then If Beale Street Could Talk. Fantastic. Love him. Damien Chazelle made La La Land, which is my favorite non-Lord of the Rings movie of all time, and it really changed my life because it made me ask if I could do anything, if I could follow my dreams in a crazy way, what would I do? And that led to me starting a movie theater coffee shop in Rochester, Minnesota. And then he also made Whiplash, which is incredible, and you should all watch if you haven't. And then Denis Villeneuve, love him. Blade Runner 2049 is great. Arrival is great. Sicario is great. I'm really excited about his Dune adaptation. Enemy is really well. Prisoners is a good film. He just really makes great stuff. Some lesser known, at least in like the popular sphere, directors that I really like and would really recommend. Well, everyone knows Spike Lee. Spike Lee is also there. I was going to say Spike Lee, but I think most people know about him. If you haven't watched a Spike Lee, a really good entrance is Inside Man. Watch Inside Man, but also Do the Right Thing is an incredible film, one of the best films of all time. You need to watch by Spike Lee. Please check that out. And then go to Malcolm X and She's Gotta Have It, and Spike Lee. You should watch Spike Lee. Oh, and Black Klansman, one of his most recent one, fantastic. Jean-Pierre Melville, who's a French New Wave director that doesn't get a lot of play. His film Les Samurai I really like, and then Army of Shadows. There we go, Army of Shadows. Both of those are really great and underrated. So I gave you way more than just one, but those are some of my favorite filmmakers at the moment. I badly need a read asks content creator that you admire the most and you want to collaborate with, dream project ? This is going outside of BookTube, but I love the McElroy brothers, Griffin McElroy, Travis McElroy, and Justin McElroy. If you haven't heard of them, two of them are the founders of Polygon, which is a great video game online publication. But they're most known for their podcast, My Brother and Me, as well as the podcast The Adventure Zone, which is a D&D podcast that they play with their dad. Both I would highly recommend. I think they are hilarious, and I really resonate with them because they grew up in a very religious atmosphere like I did, and then because of circumstances that happened in their life, especially the passing of their mother, and how that was treated in the church, kind of pushed them away that community, and instead of getting bitter or resentful, they actually became like champions of inclusion and love and just joy in life. Their podcast, My Brother and Me, is hilarious. It's an advice show, but really it's just a comedy podcast where they get ridiculous questions from Yahoo Answers and people emailing them in, and they give silly answers to them. It's great. Highly recommend. Also, I know there's a lot of video game players out there. They do a series on their YouTube page called Monster Factory, where they go and like create custom characters in games like Dark Souls and make horrific, terrible characters and play the game with them. It's hilarious. I love them so much. And my dream project with them is actually not anything about books or video games or anything. I would actually really love to do a documentary on them, talking about that experience growing up, and about choosing joy and about spreading inclusion and again, just joyfulness to the world despite these hard circumstances they've had, and to make it like funny and comedic, but also to really strike into sort of the darker side of those things, or the sadder human elements there, and about the goodness that they have spread. They've been champions for LGBT rights and like sex positivity and a lot of really great things, inclusion in the video games industry, and so I'd like to do a documentary following them on that, and specifically once Corona is done, doing that by following them on some of their tours. They do live shows a lot. I've attended a few, and I think they've really created a really unique atmosphere. So that would be my dream project. I think that would be so great and really meaningful and impactful in a lot of different ways. So probably not exactly what you were looking for, but that's definitely what I thought of when I saw that question. Wow, this is getting long, and my battery is about to die on my computer. So you know what? I think we're gonna have to cut this into two separate parts. Answering questions really takes a long time, apparently. Thank you all for sending in so many interesting and cool questions. So I think I'm gonna make this the end of part one. Please like and subscribe, and I know I don't have to ask, 'cause there's gonna be a lot of comments from these questions down below. Thank you all for watching my male hair tutorial and other random facts about me. And truly, thank you for getting me to 1,000 subscribers. That is crazy surreal and so cool. Thank you guys so much. As always, first in, last out.